Hi, welcome to season 12. We are interested in investigating what we've seen, which recently Pfizer announced that they're going to cut their sales staff because there's more meetings that are now remote with the doctors. And so they're going to make this a major shift. And we think that this is a trend that we're going to see with a lot of our clients over time in different ways. So we think that it will have the impact will be what happens with sales and marketing and the roles that they play. So I'm Mary Abazia, and I have Tom Spitali and Sean Wellham, and we're looking forward to delving into this with you. Tom, do you want to start talk a little bit more about what you're thinking with this?
Yeah, the thing that was really surprising to all of us about Pfizer cutting the sales forces was during a record sales year. Their partnership with BioNTech in making the one of the few COVID vaccines ballooned their sales. And so typically and historically, what that's meant for pharmaceutical companies is investing more in the sales force. So this idea of shrinking the sales force was really surprising. But in the article that that tipped us off about this whole thing, Pfizer talked about the reasoning behind this, and it was pretty telling. They said after the pandemic, they feel like doctors are going to want to maintain more virtual meetings than in-person meetings. They didn't say less meetings overall. They just said that they see this trend where doctors have gotten used to the benefits of virtual meetings with their pharmaceutical rep. They feel like they're going to want to make that a permanent change. And so it got us to thinking about how that could impact marketing, but even more broadly, the entire commercial function. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things we think that this is going to lead to, and changing what we're calling the commercialization function, maybe permanently. Sean, what's some of the things that you see happening as a result of this?
Well, I think first thing I'd like to say is that often the case where something happens for reasons of efficiency, but has a consequence that goes beyond the initial reason for doing it. So you could argue that Pfizer's decision is based a lot on running a more efficient sales operation. If you're doing everything virtually, you're going to need less people. There's less travel time. There's less flights involved. There's less scheduling conflicts. It's easier to reschedule meetings. So the whole thing becomes a lot less labor intensive. So the driver might be efficiency, but I think the consequence, well, first of all, I'd have to say this. I also think it will be a long-term reset, the virtual meetings versus face-to-face. But I've been around long enough to know that sometimes these shifts just create a new competitive advantage of being the people that still do face-to-face, right? I think it won't be a hard stop. I think it will evolve as people experiment with different models and maybe a hybrid or two. But if we assume that the virtual is going to win and be the future of most sales interactions, I think that the biggest thing it does is well, I think there's two equally important things. One is it changes the dynamic between the salesperson and the prospect or customer. No longer in the context of a room or an office, they're on a screen. So you've got that little bit of real estate to promote more effectively, to use more tools to demonstrate your product, to show relevant information, be that through explainer videos or software demos or videos or what have you. You've got their attention focused on a screen. That changes the possibilities. And the other thing it does is it opens up that world to more of the people that need to see how real customers and prospects actually are, what the reality of the sales exchange is. You can record these calls with permission. You can actually have people join the calls. It's perfectly fine to say, I'm joined today by Bill from our marketing department. More the merrier. There's no incremental cost to adding people. So you get the exposure and people get to see the reality. The more you see reality, the more you react. So there's two things: that the interaction based on the dynamic of an online meeting, and the ability to engage with more people at low cost to see the reality of customers, to educate, inform, and help the whole business become smarter as to what really matters for customers. Two broad strokes, but I think they're the biggies.
Yeah, I like where you're going. I wanted one of the earlier points about, it won't be a hard stop or a hard start to it. When we talk to some of our medical device friends, we ask them about it, and they think it'll take longer because so much of their sales interaction is actually being in the OR, helping with a procedure. So, that's a little bit harder to do remote. So, depending on your business, there will be different levels of this adoption occurring. But what is really cool, I think about it from the eyes of the customer, is that you're right, Sean, they now can have a real expert join them, somebody internally, maybe they need to talk to, the lead scientist on something. They certainly have that access now. Or if there's an external, even other customers, you could bring customers in if there's a discussion that's relevant. So, it really does open up opportunities to create a better dialogue. You still have to have that personal touch, but could you have a better dialogue with the right people in the quote unquote virtual room?
So we think a lot about in terms of marketing and how these things are going to impact the marketing function. And one of the interesting things that we've noticed is that a lot of times when we're talking to sales reps and they complain about the help they get from marketing, their complaint is marketing doesn't understand the sales process. And what this unprecedented number of virtual meetings, and Sean, you mentioned it, the ability to record those meetings, is going to create is an ability for not just marketing, but everybody in the organization to be more realistic about what really goes on in the sales call. I think it's really notable that the last two really famous sales methodologies that I'm aware of, the challenger sale and the spin selling, both of those were based upon companies painstakingly looking and getting permission to attend live sales calls and documenting what went on there. What we're going to see is this explosion of the ability to record sales calls and the ability for artificial intelligence to kind of analyze those calls, what goes well, what doesn't go well. And I think the whole organization is going to understand at a whole new level what really does and doesn't work in sales. And so bringing this back full circle to marketing, it's going to be pretty difficult to not understand what works in sales. And I think that marketing is going to have this new ability to really plug into the sales process and do what they do so well, whether that be helping the sales force to segment customers a little bit better, providing the kinds of collateral, Sean, that you were talking about is going to be available at the touch of a button, a lot easier than if you were in a live sales call having to, bring things or depend upon an internet connection, et cetera, et cetera. So these are the kinds of things that we see, at least I see happening, that's going to make marketing more integrated into the sales function.
There's another aspect too, which we should also mention, that the everything we've said so far is a huge benefit, a huge opportunity. But the other thing, looking at the Salesforce effectiveness has been an area that has been invested in and talked about. You mentioned a couple of the methodologies. The unknown quantity is always, you can train your salespeople. You can agree a sort of message template, an offer. You can give them the tools and skills you believe they need to do their job effectively. But you never know how it's actually done, because if you're there, you've got that observer bias where you can't observe something without it being impacted by the fact that you're observing it. Do you see what I mean? You change the dynamic. You do a sales call. This is my sales manager with me today. That's going to be a different interaction than if you were sat there on your own. So it gives us that reality check. If a message that has been concocted with the commercial teams, the sales and marketing are saying, this is our offer, this is our proposition, this is our positioning, you can see if it's being delivered efficiently and effectively. And if it is it being rejected and we need to rethink? Or do we need to rethink how we get this more front and center? Are we handling the objections in the way that we've been taught and trained to do? Are we finding the right elements of pain that map to the solutions that our product or service has? Have we tied together the outcomes with the execute? All that stuff enables us, and we should talk about this in future episodes in this season. Yes, we're traditionally a strategic marketing company, but over the years, we've evolved very much into a commercial execution business because the amount of salespeople that we've worked with to try and cover that last mile between the idea and the customer. And I think it's really important that this gives a great opportunity for improving the sales interaction, as well as improving the collateral and the support that goes into it.
Yeah, I think another element that marketing brings into this is we like to think of marketers as the orchestrators, of the company's value proposition, that function that sits in between the company's capabilities and the customer and figures out, how the value proposition can be optimized. In this case, we see marketing having a real opportunity to help optimize the sales process in collaboration with their sales partners, right? Figuring out what situations call for which internal or external experts, kind of helping sales map that process that says, all right, I need to ask these questions to find out, what the pain points are for the customer, as you mentioned, Sean. And that leads to a process where we bring in these subject matter experts or these, customer references, et cetera. Mapping that whole process is going to, we think, be something that is in the sweet spot of marketing. And again, is going to allow them to be more practical and practically helpful in the sales environment.
The way I see that is like it's like a virtuous circle with this opportunity, this virtual sales meeting opportunity will help sales be better supported by marketing because of the relevancy of the effort they do, but also marketing to be more supported by sales by having more accurate, reality-based customer data. Because we all know that people will answer a question, do you prefer A, B, or C, or out of 10, how would you, net promoter score stuff. You'll get the data in, but there's no substitute for observing. We say this in our market research element. You can ask customers, but usually the most insight you'll ever get is by watching customers. And this is a sort of equivalent of that. So it's not so much that this is an opportunity to improve sales or marketing. It's this connection. This is like the very fact of how things have changed will enable marketing to better support sales and sales to better inform marketing. And so the circle turns. For those that choose to grab the opportunity, I don't think it'll happen without an effort. I think it needs to be a strategic decision that businesses make to leverage the opportunity.
Yeah, I think you're right. And in the middle of all that flywheel, if you will, is who's responsible. Because, as we've seen, this is a great opportunity for sales and marketing and the other functions to really serve the customer well. But it either is like, it's going to work really well because it seems like it should be symbiotic, or it'll just blow apart because sales will, continue to say, this is my territory. And even if it's virtual, and marketing will go, well, this is my job. So I don't, sometimes what we see in organizations is you have somebody that is the head of both sales and marketing, and they're the great unifier that says, you guys, this is how you're going to work together. But I think that there needs to be a clear process, a way that, a method of operating moving forward for how the two will work. And it's different than the past. So it'll be important for that alignment to occur, to have alignment meetings about how they're going to work together.
Yeah, it's a CEO initiative, isn't it? Ultimately, it's got to be, because there's so many potential departments that feed into this commercial execution. this has to be a CEO initiative of saying we need to make this work. I used to have a boss that used to use the phrase, what interests my boss fascinates me. And I think it's true. If you can get the CEO to be interested in this opportunity, then everyone else will fall in line. But without that support, this is one of those few that we can speak to marketing heads about improving marketing, and we can speak to sales heads about improving sales. The age-old question of how do you get these two really critical functions together has to go one level up. Or maybe there's a commercial, a chief commercial officer, maybe that's a role that we should advocate for.
And what we're saying, I think, is that the pandemic has removed the barrier of like time and space that made this a little bit difficult to happen. There's this like almost maybe real, maybe artificial barrier between marketing and sales that said that sales went out and really heard what customers want, and they came back and marketing, gave advice that just wasn't practical. So this trend towards these virtual meetings, the ability to record them, kind of removes that barrier. And so it's still up to the organizations and the leadership to recognize the opportunity and make it happen. But we see it as a real opportunity, real good opportunity for those who figure it out.
Any commercial opportunity, the spoils are going to go to the people that move the quickest. And there's an opportunity here for many businesses to say, this is the time to look at this integrated commercialization, this virtuous circle of customer sales, marketing, product pricing, all spiraling up, making things better for everyone concerned. Don't forget, this is not just about extracting more value from the customers. It's about delivering more value. It's about value creation as well as the value capture. It literally could be a win-win-win if we take the customer sales and marketing. It's a huge opportunity. I'm looking forward to getting into this topic.
I like the idea of spiraling up. I usually think of spiraling down, but that's kind of a cool way of thinking of this.
So that's the new glass half full, glass half empty.
Oh, spiral up. I'm going to spiral up today.
Which direction does the spiral go? That'd be a good golden question to see someone's outlook. Spiral, up or down?
So we obviously are just opening the top of this topic. We do want to investigate more about the roles, about how the marketing process actually occurs with segmentation and all the way through to benefits sought. What are ways that companies can really leverage this opportunity better, all the way to the P&L. So we hope that you'll join us for the next episodes of this season. And anytime, send us a quick note. We'd love to get your feedback so that we can make sure that we're really even thinking about this as broadly as we can. So thank you very much.